Hello and welcome to this episode of Startup with Poland, where we get into the nitty-gritty of what is going on in Poland's startup ecosystem. My name is Tessa McIver and I am your host. Now, my guest today is incredibly fascinating. Bartosz Ziółek, who's currently head of digital at Santander. So Bartek himself actually founded a couple of startups before joining a casual dining chain, which led him into an international management role and in the sphere of digital transformations. His career path took him to China for a whole 15 years, where he launched numerous brands. Now, he currently coaches, mentors, lectures, and that's before we get to his day job at Santander. So let's find out more. Bartek, I'm so happy to have you with us here today.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm super happy as well.
Well, I mean, we've had various discussions before that have really fascinated me. So, I really wanted to bring you in front of our audience to share, some of the great experiences you've had. Let's just start off. I just want to touch on, we won't focus maybe on the Chinese market since we're talking about Poland, but just, to touch on your time, 15 years that you spent in China, how did that happen? And maybe you can just give us some glimpses into that reality.
Of course. I just decided to go there mostly because of curiosity.
Okay.
It's really, those days, like more than 15 years ago, it was even more exotic than it's right now. But technology was not the reason those days. I was more interested in immerse into the culture because those days, the cultural gap was really something. What was the reason that European companies was not growing there? And I believe that that's the biggest change right now. Nowadays, it's not about culture gap; it's more about digital gap.
Okay.
And in the area that I'm working right now for past few years already. Yeah, that's super interesting when you look at the country, which switched from like a rural almost country 50 years ago to something what is like a top-notch technology country driven by data and that's super unique.
Yeah, well, no, I can imagine. I mean, how difficult was it for you actually to adapt culturally, though, coming from a completely different reality?
I woke up at 5 a.m. and did all the possible mistakes till the late evening for the 5 years, first years. And that was really a lot of tough lessons, and I needed, especially, I was super sure that I know a lot because I was study abroad as well, spend a lot of time in States, in different countries and so on. But China is like a whole other story. And especially they're super pragmatical. They always want to understand why you're doing what you're doing. And that's funny when you're thinking that, when you confront with someone who is super logical and always in the same time, we are, as European and in States in particular, we are super transactional and they are super relational. Okay, they want to be closer with you, but in the same time, they want to be as practical as they can.
Okay, so an interesting mix there.
And the time as well, the concept of time, because, for us, it's like linear. There's a past, there's a present and future. In China, there's the time looks exactly like this table.
Okay.
And events just are like something what is immersed somewhere here, and simply you walking around the table and you just catching the events. But it's not like a linear kind of understanding. It's hard to.
Wow.
Yeah, you need probably few months there to really
actually get into the concept. I was really fascinated by some of the things that you told me about that I saw as looking into the future of maybe what our reality in Europe will be of driverless taxis. I mean, things we will know about and hear about, but most of us have not experienced, or couriers, drone couriers. I mean, could you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, that's like I believe that the time machine historically is kind of the sci-fi movie kind of concept, and now it's simply the airplane. You're jumping in, and 12 hours later you are in the future. And I think that's like 8 maybe to 12 years ahead China is right now. And of course it's because they understand that that's the only escape that they have right now, and simply there is like a huge population gap, because in the demographic level, that China have like a huge problem, and it's growing right now. But of course, when you look up and there is a drone flying with parcels, and when you're sitting into this robot taxi, because this is how they call it, and it's okay when there's like a straight road. Of course, it's like it's easy to be terrified, but you know the worst when you're turning left on like a free line way, and you understand that he need to understand that there is a people driving there, not robots, and people are super unpredictable. So you know, on many levels, it's of course, the third time is already you absorb this and you understand that this is how the future will look like, and the chance that you will die when the driver will be there is even higher. According all the, and that's the reason why robotaxi will be the probably one of the fastest growing technology right now, because the amount of the people that will die on the road will simply be half or even less of the digits that we have right now, because the robots and simply can predict.
So you think that within sort of a decade or so this will be our reality in
I
Europe
think
as well?
If we will put different technologies like AI, robotaxi, industrial robots, and so on, robotaxi, in my humble opinion, will be one of the fastest growing because not only of the cost, but simply it's life-saving technology.
Well, let's go back from out of China to today. You're head of digital at Santander, and I'd really like to hear a bit more about your role, what you're doing with the bank, how also the bank's working with startups, the digital transformation.
Exactly, I think that I never worked at the bank. That's my first time in general in the financial sector, which is as well kind of the sign of what's happening right now, that the financial institutions start to hiring the people. I'm a software engineer as well, which helps me a lot to understand which kind of technology will grow, which will collapse, and so on. So I think that the banks started to ask the question 3-5 years ago, okay, do we really understand for example, how to assess the risk in the technological projects? And the answer was, for most majority of the banks, no. And that's why they're starting to hire the team. And my team, for example, one of the team of digital and tech invest at the bank that I'm leading, my first question is, okay, have you ever had a startup? And if the startup collapse, and did you fail on the market? And all the members of my team already had this experience, that they set up a startup, they were a founder, and the one of the startups that they lead simply collapsed. And I believe that that's something super new in general at the banks, because from our perspective, the word comfort is crucial. If you walk through the corridors of the bank, if you're doing a transaction, all of the teams need to have a comfort, there's not place for comfort in the startup zone. We simply always trying, and we always experimenting, and it's the majority of times we simply fail, and that's okay.
Yeah, so that is quite different, obviously, to the mindset of banks, financial institutions.
I believe so, and it's like the same story with huge companies. I'm working in the corporational department, so I'm as well advising our big clients how to, for example, robotize the production facilities, and that's as well the big part of my everyday job. And it's And technology is like a great equalizer. So which is as well super funny to watch from the first seat, because you have companies who have like a huge resources, super smart people, but they still in the same position as startups, because they coping with the same questions. Okay, is the AI really can be implemented in this exact task that we want to solve? And this question can be answered in the same way by head of technology on the company and simply the founder of the startups.
Yeah.
And those answers sometimes are really completely different because the perspective is different.
Yeah. But how, I see certainly more and more initiatives of big corporations from various sectors, implementing, trying to work with startups and implementing various solutions, or at least testing them.
Yeah.
But how important do you think it is actually for corporations to be open to and to cooperate with startups?
I think that corporations are not really humble, and that's the problem. Yeah, because they're really, it's hard for them to admit, and sometimes for us as well, that we need a completely new approach, and sometimes it's simply. I will not say that startups are humble, but they're much more open to hear the criticism. They're hearing this from the during the gathering the money and or many other situations in general. So I think that that's the first of all. I think that more startups should be in touch with corporations, but they should push this communication. They should look for the right person, right people, and if they will hear no from one person, it's not the no from the organization, it's the no from this particular person.
And particular maybe department or
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to find the right person and how to simply spot the area of the company which are much more open and which waiting. And I notice in those organizations, for example, CFOs who it's not really the role model for innovation usually, because they are simply as well need to prove that the company simply know what they're doing. Honestly, I was super surprised that a lot of them are really eager to do some innovational changes, because besides the CEO, they're the other persons who really understand the data and they see where the company have the pain points. So that means that usually they can as well orchestrate this process of innovation in the company, which was one of the biggest surprise for me, because I was always waiting for meeting with CIO, CTO, and talk about robots. And I'm meeting CFO and they're saying, okay, we cannot produce more because there's no enough people. In Poland in 2025 there will be 2.5 million the insufficient people, insufficient workers on the Polish factory plants.
Wow.
Which is huge.
That's huge.
That's huge. In 2030, 5 million lack of people who will be simply producing so that means that robotization it's not really because we think that it's simply something what we should do. It's absolutely necessary to already start to go there and understand how we can use robots.
So those who cry that these new technologies, new solutions are taking people's jobs should actually be very happy that somebody is going to be.
Five years ago, I was working for the big Chinese company who's doing the robotization globally. And the most terrifying meeting was with the chief of HR, because that was exactly the logic. Now they are the biggest advocate of robots.
Oh wow, okay.
Because for them right now, all the pressure of the company right now is put it on their shoulders. Find people who will do the job, and it's simply impossible because no one wants to send Probably the same stories with you and me, that to sending, our kids to work in the factory.
Yeah, it's not, I don't think I'd be too happy.
And as well for them, it's different story in Germany. For like a German parent, sending the kids to factory is like a legit job. It's like, it's totally normal. But Poland is super aspirational. We want to prove. We want to be, in something what is as well inspiring and fashionable and so on. So you will see that probably in the next 3 years, these robots will be more and more present in our life.
I mean, looking at Poland specifically, how do you see the sort of innovation landscape developing? What do you think are the strengths and weaknesses? I mean, I think especially maybe because you were out of the country for so many years, maybe coming back and seeing, observing, may give you a really good insight.
Yeah, there's one measurement that I'm always taking account. It's like how many times the GDP was grown during the life of millennial. And for China, it's 37 times. So during the life of millennial, the GDP of China was grown 37 times. Which you can imagine is huge. For States, it's 2.7, for example. For Portugal, is like 1.9. And if you compare, for Poland, is 9 times.
9. Okay, that's
which
still
is
a lot.
second biggest after China. What does it mean? That means that there's something what I call adaptation factor. That you simply, if we will not measure the let's say innovation of the company of the country by, for example, the number of the Elon Musks exist, but we will measure this by the way that this particular nation simply adopt the innovation. In this matter, China and Poland is like in the best to simply learn. And that means that if you're creating something super innovative, it's much better to put this on the Chinese table instead of putting this on German table, because for them, it's this contactless payment and so on. It's still not present in Germany. And we for us, it's something what is already kind of old school technology. We are paying with Blick. For us, it's like a micropayment. It's like exactly what we should do. So answering your question, I think that from perspective of Poland, we will be kind of the technological hub only because of the simple skill of being curious and being super close to check, okay, how does it work? How can I use it? And so that's something what is simply a good source of the feedback for all the creators, and it's much easier to get the feedback from the market in Poland than in other countries.
Okay. Well, that all sounds very positive.
Yeah.
You have a positive assessment then in a whole, and do you think Poland will continue to develop in the right direction?
I think that Poland will be a hub for technology for Europe in the next 10 years.
Okay. Well, I'm going to check. I'm going to put a reminder for in 10 years' time. We'll see. No, and I really hope so. I mean, Bartek, when I looked through before our meeting, your background, and you've had a variety of different, roles. You created your own startups some time ago. You've obviously now in a corporate, financial institution. What are your personal sort of biggest drivers? I mean, what gets you most excited when you wake up in the morning?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And honestly, I still think that it's curiosity. I'm simply curious what will be the next version of this planet and this economy. And of course, China is a kind of spoiler, because I already saw a lot. So now I'm really waiting if the technology will take the same path. How we will use, because the vector of transfer of technology is already switched. For years it was to China. It was mostly about stealing technology and so on. This is exactly what we should do right now. take back, all the good ideas from there. And simply from the perspective of most of the Chinese innovators, they are super surprised that we not really copy and paste the good ideas here.
Okay.
Because we should do.
Okay, great. So it's in summary, the curiosity which gets you up in the morning.
Exactly.
And well, I think that's a fantastic, inspirational thing to wake up to. I think the world probably is a lot sadder for those who wake up not curious to it. So
I think that I believe that just few days in China will switch the something in your mind, and it will be much easier to be curious for future.
Okay, so a good advice to all our listeners: if the world's starting to get boring, jump to China for a few days. Bartek, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. It's been a real pleasure to have you here.
Same here.
And
Thank you so much.
Good luck with all this further curiosity in the world.
And see you in 10 years to check if my prediction was right.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you to our listeners. And see you next time for Startup with Poland.